You ready to fight, Brian?
Always ready to battle.
Are your monsters ready for battle?
Always.
Magic spell card?
Got it.
Got it. Sound bases.
You're a little weak, aren't you?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Peace Offering. That's my spell.
Okay, I'll accept your surrender.
Yeah, I will, because, man, my sound bases. What happened? I must have played too much with them. They ran out of battery. Thank you, everybody, for coming back to the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kaz.
I'm Brian.
And this week, we are doing a review of Dwellings of Eldervale. And as you can see, it is a massive box. This is by Breaking Games, and I'm just going to go ahead and go through the little counts here. It goes up to 1 to 5 players. Roughly 30 minutes per player is what I'm reading off the box. And this is a game that I have been looking forward to for quite a long time. Now here, I'll let it... Man, you didn't even turn the sound bases off. Look, you're going to wear the batteries out like mine are.
My monsters are never off.
Luke Laurie, I think, was one of the designers.
He's the main one.
Or he's the main designer, and man, this has been one of the most hotly anticipated games, at least for me, for the past year. More so than any other Kickstarter that I've seen, maybe except for Return to Dark Tower. I'm really excited for that one as well. But this one, when I heard about the worker placement elements of it, the fact that you can use monsters in it and you can take control of monsters and things like that, and that it's kind of like a hybrid between area control, worker placement, and so many other little items to it, and some engine building.
Yes.
I was really excited about this.
I wasn't excited when you first told me about it with the little bases. I thought that was a little cheap gimmick.
And yet you're playing with them.
This is by far awesome.
Yeah. And so, yeah, don't give it away too quickly, man, how you feel about it. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of generally talk about the rules. We're not going to really do a heavy in-depth because there's a decent amount of rules in this game, but I have to say it looks more complex than it is.
Components were phenomenal. I couldn't believe the components in this game. The game trays, the little meeples that are in here, the individual shapes for your wizard, your dragon, your warrior, and these little housetops, rooftops. Just right on top of your little meeple.
Never let it be said you can't use meeples for just about anything, right?
That was just awesomeness.
And keep in mind, we have the Legendary Deluxe Edition, so I don't know how deep it goes with the retail edition. There's going to be probably a little bit of change. But other than that, everything else was just fantabulous.
Easy to set up with all the components with the game trays. Your guys already come set up in your easy game tray. You flip your board open and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't get any simpler than that.
And the fact that you can play, and I'm going to go ahead and just go into pros and cons to some extent. We'll mix in some of the rules with it. Some of the hugest pros for me, one of them is you're literally, you know how like in a normal game, a lot of times you get the game trays and they're gorgeous and they're amazing, and they're just used for storage and storage alone. But with this...
It's like your player board.
Yeah.
Everything right there. It
works with your player board. Your actual player board when it comes to all the different factions. I think there's 16 in the game. Mm-hmm. I like the idea, though, that everything you're going to be doing is right here. All your resources are laid out. It tells you what your maximums are of each, which is a huge deal. Like if you want to get more workers, it tells you what the cost on resources are for
it just
workers.
Kind of gives you pips up there for the cost of resources. You got to reference your little handy-dandy player starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also a worker placement spot, which is really cool.
Definitely.
For awesome. When you recruit and what have you. The dice are actually quite beautiful, too, considering they're just standard dice, but the way that they cut them, the way that they made them, they've got that extra gloss look, and it almost has that marble feel to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just component quality, I'm very close to a 10, but I will say this. I did have a con with the components. When it comes to these, and I understand what Breaking Games is trying to do, and kudos to them for trying to make this work. I just think that these were a little bit too tight on these trays, because when you're popping the lid in, you pop it in and there's these little pips on the side that are supposed to hold it down. The problem is it starts wearing away at the sides of the top of the actual player.
I would have liked to have seen that
tray.
Slide in.
Yeah, maybe
slide
something
in
like
through the
that.
top or something. That way, there's no damage to the cardboard. Because the more and more you play, you're going to start to see the edges start to pop
Fray
up
a little bit.
fray with the cardboard, and if
It's thick
someone who wants
cardboard.
to keep their games in pristine condition, it's going to really get on your nerves.
That will be a con, and it is a con for me. It does knock the component quality down a tiny bit, but I did find a solution to it, which I shouldn't have had to do. I filed down every tray at those little pips to make sure that it didn't cut too deeply into this cardboard. Because again, even though I filed it down, it's still pretty tight. It holds everything very well.
Yeah. You get extra props for being easy setup with that functionality.
Absolutely. I do like the fact that they use the adventure board here, where you go out and get your cards, your adventuring cards when you're doing quests and stuff, where you can build up your faction more and things like that. I love the style, the layout. Again, everything in this game serves a function. Except, granted, the sound bases, which look. I do not care if it is opulence. It may not come in every edition, but dadgummit, I'm glad it's in mine because it is amazing. And there's two sounds for each monster. Mm-hmm. I don't know if
it seemed like a cheap little gimmick, but it does really help enhance the gameplay a little bit, I think.
There we go. There's the other. I can't help it. I mean, I'm sitting here with this Dread Croc, and I'm going, it's like Godzilla, and I'm going to kill.
The sound bases are great, so keep that little guy in your game group that likes to make noises for every little thing.
Now,
I already got you beat, dude.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. See, we keep turning them off. Save that battery. But I'll tell you this, too. There was a little bit of a component issue. It may not be a huge one, but in my copy, the yellow minis didn't fit too well into the sound base, and it was way too strong. Like it was really hard to pull them out of the sound bases.
And the white one doesn't seem like it fits in there. It's too loose.
Snugly, yeah.
It's
so
too loose.
These are all nitpicks, really, in the grand scheme of things. Overall, component quality is top notch, and it's amazing. Now, when it comes to the mechanics, the one thing that I absolutely fell in love with this game, well, several things really. I like the fact that when you lay out your tiles, you're building out your board, you're going according to the style of elements that you choose according to your faction, because each faction is going to have element symbols, and then you add in a few more on top two more elements, right, on top of how many players you have. And this goes up to 5, so you could conceivably have 7 elements out there, right? I think, is that right? And so, and that's going to correspond with this
magic track,
the magic and score tracker and all of that. These are the elements that you're going to be tracking on, and you're trying very hard to do different things like questing, which will give you, like I said, cards which can upgrade your abilities, can give you some cool new powers that you can do, some storage vaults for extra points at the end of the game.
Well, it's just like your engine that you're building up is what these cards are going to do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And the cool thing is, every time, like, for example, if you defeat a monster of a certain element, for example, if I beat the purple monster, I'm going to go up on that purple track, and that's going to help with in-game combo points as well as getting me an orb later on. Like, you can just go out and kill a monster. You progress. You go out and quest. You progress. There's a lot of little ways to progress in this game when it comes to in-game points.
Definitely.
For example, I can get a card which can give me a special ability, and you can top it off with another ability on top of it. If I'm the highest on this, magic track that goes according to that card insignia, I get that extra bonus that it adds to it. But if he gets up there and he ties me on one of the magic tracks, it takes away my bonus. So it really feels like a race depending on what tracks you're on, and I really like that.
You definitely can plan that out and screw the other person over and keep them from getting their extra bonus just because you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've done that many times.
Yes, he did. And I'll tell you what, the only real, it's not even really so much a con, it's something to think about. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in doing all of these other things in the game, you're getting so excited about getting monsters and fighting and all these other things, that sometimes you forget to do the things that you need to actually score points in the game.
I don't think I really I didn't really have that issue when I was playing. I really stayed focused on building up my engine with my tableau cards and building up my magic track. I really didn't have that problem with forgetting to do certain things. Now, I did kind of forget that you only got 4 pieces that you can put on the tracker up there, on the magic tracker. And if you go for that 5th one, there's no point.
They got so caught up in what they were doing over here that they forgot sometimes to, I need to enhance this area on the element tracks because there's an orb at the top of each track, and if you get that orb, it'll give you special bonuses. You can power up specific very OP style cards in the game, all sorts of things. And I love when you go out onto the board itself, you got these little tokens that you can get, which resource. They can give you cards, like spell cards, for example, which is a great way to really progress your way into the game and to mitigate die rolls and to bring your people back from the underworld when you fight and you lose, things like that. But when you get these tiles, one of the coolest things that I loved about this game was you can store them in your player area, like in that tray. And you can store them for later use. You can cash them in, get the resources, or you can enhance a card that has maybe a slot on it right here, and you can enhance that. So not only am I getting a scroll every time I go here, actually, I'm going to get a scroll and another scroll and a potion. So that's some of the bonuses I was talking about.
As long as you're the highest one up on that magic track.
Yeah,
that particular
and
color.
I love that. And the fact that you can change those out anytime. You might lose these if you have them already slotted on a card specifically, but the fact that if you're able to go there as a worker placement spot and continue hitting those bonuses, it can really ramp you up on your resources.
You got some cards on here that act as a vault where you store your resources that give you in-game points or give you immediate points. For
when it comes to in-game scoring, and we'll get to that more heavily in a bit, but when it comes to in-game scoring, these cards also come into play as well. They combo off how high you are on the magic track that it represents. For example, this one is the blue track, right? And you can score up to 3 on each dwelling that you got. That's what your primary goal in the game. And that's one of your primary things is you're trying to build dwellings out on the board with your workers, because you're sending the workers out to get these resources. You might have a possibility of turning them into a dwelling, putting a little house piece on top of them, and they give you extra bonuses in battle and things like that, and for in-game scoring.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, the only thing that it's not a drawback in terms of a con, the only drawback is you lose that guy. So you really need to determine whether or not it's worth it to you to get rid of those workers.
But there are other ways to get more workers to do things. Like if you play with the mercenary expansion, or if you capture a monster, those become other workers that you can use to do other things, to activate tableau cards, to activate other spots, to fight. You can gather other workers as you play on to help you out with that.
Right.
So you don't necessarily lose them. You just got to figure out other ways to gain those others, to hire that mercenary. To keep that mercenary permanent, you got to have the orb.
Right.
Once you get that orb, that mercenary is yours. No one else can claim that mercenary. But once you dominate a monster, it dies.
Yeah.
That's the end of that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there are other ways to get more workers to continue the flow.
I do like the fact, too, that you have workers that are specifically tailored to certain things. And it's interesting, too, because the factions each they list all of the type of, attack dice each type of worker can do. For example, your dragon is technically a worker, but it's considered its own thing, and it has the power of flight. And so it can actually move a couple of spaces away from the original worker placement that you put down. For example, in the game, when you place a worker normally, in the normal flow of the game, you have to normally place adjacent to that worker as you go, and then adjacent to the next worker, and so on and so forth.
Then your 2 workers that can go anywhere are going to be your wizard,
which can teleport anywhere on the board, which is awesome.
Or your dragon that can go up to 2 spaces away.
Yeah.
Which does help, because if you get kind of painted into a corner by somebody else on the table,
that dragon come in handy,
it comes in handy, especially the wizard comes in handy. Or you place it somewhere else and you realize that other spot's available now because of the way the gameplay. Because when you're actually playing the game, everybody takes their turn putting pieces out on the board, but if you regroup, you don't all regroup at one time. And that's one of my favorite parts about this game.
That was cool.
Is that there's no round, and gameplay continues, and you don't have to wait till everybody regroups before you start playing
except for the first round. And in the sense of in the beginning of the game, everything's peaceful, because normally if you go close to a monster, and all of them are going to have their own special abilities, and I love that. They're all going to have their own special abilities. They're all going to have their special things. But if you get close enough to a monster, they'll charge you, and you have to fight them. 9 times out of 10. There's a few of them that you don't.
A few of them that go like the crocodile. It can go in the opposite direction.
You just did that on purpose. Can't help it, man. They're fun. But the thing is that in the first round, technically speaking, everybody's at peace. Like, I could go into a similar area where he is, and we're not fighting.
But here's the thing with that, though. If I put 2 people out and then I decide to regroup, and then I place back out there, it still is a peaceful round, even though I've already regrouped. But
everybody has to regroup.
Once everybody is regrouped, then it's no longer peaceful.
Then everything's war. And let me tell you, you are going to probably fight quite a bit in this game, especially if you're trying to get. And it's not even
really about fighting, but you do fight.
It has it in it. Yeah, definitely.
It does have it in it, but you can avoid fighting. But that's what I love about the game. You can avoid fighting, or you can go into fighting.
And it's got a pretty intuitive battle system. I like the fact that all you're doing is comparing dice, and you got magic cards and things you can throw down.
Yeah, it keeps it simple, and that's why I love
it goes quick.
Because there's so much other stuff to keep track of this, and if they complicated the fighting, I think it would ruin the game.
Yeah, I agree. It would slow it down way too much.
Yeah, with it being simple, I got 6. He's got a 6. I got a 5. He's got a 3. I win.
Right, because you're comparing dice to dice, and I like the idea too that multiple people can get involved. Like if there's a monster battle going on, more people can join in and fight each other and the monster, and whoever just comes out of it wins, and they win all the spoils. And so I did like, and I'll tell you this. If you are someone, I will say this as a possible drawback for some people, possible con, if you're somebody who has to tailor every single decision out perfectly, this might not be something you're going to be happy with, because you do have a lot of dice rolling in the game. You've got a lot of dice rolling in the game.
I've read a bunch of things out there where people that were heavy Euro gamers that have not liked this.
Yeah.
And I've read the opposite, where there are a bunch out there that have liked it.
Yeah, it's a 50-50. It really is. But if you go into this knowing what you're getting, that this is more of a hybrid style game. You're definitely some Euro elements, definitely some building up your tableau and building up your cards and all that. And then at the same time, you're also getting new workers out that can fight for you. New workers out that sometimes people go out there and they're like, I don't know if I want to fight with that dragon right now, because not only does he have that, but he's got this element here that makes his dragon or whatever more powerful. Oh my gosh, he's got a bunch of swords in his supply. Well, every time you spend a sword now, you can throw another die in there to throw down. And so there's a lot, and he's got a lot of spell cards in his hand. I wonder if he's got a card that's going to screw me over, so there are a lot of things you got to keep track of, but it felt very intuitive.
It flows
so easily.
I mean, getting into the game, other than scoring, I think the scoring is the biggest part we had problems with.
First couple games, we were having a few issues with certain things we were keeping up with scoring, and that was partly on us when it came to the way that it was written, or I should say the way we read it, and it was just like, But
other than that, I mean, the game teaches very easily. It's very easy to get into. Other than mentioning those score aspects to a new player, be about the only thing that may change his strategy.
Yeah, and I honestly think that you could get up and going in 10 minutes. It's not that hard to learn.
Well,
it really isn't.
With everything already being laid out for you, it makes it even
set up and tear down so easy.
The hardest part is like figuring out which other monster you want to battle during the game.
Yes.
What other elements do you want in the game?
Yeah, and being able to dominate a monster and use it is freaking awesome. I mean, that is amazing.
Honestly, I can't wait for more expansions for this. Maybe bring more monsters with more bases in with this.
I don't know, man. They have so much already.
It's got enormous playability, but I just think, what other abilities can we gain from those monsters? Like, one I like is with the Wind Guy. It gives every one of your guys ability to fly.
How to win the game? You have to first person be with 6 dwellings, or the tiles, the adventure tiles, the quest tiles run out. When you build out your board fully. I would say when it comes to, like I said, the in game scoring, that is it's great. I love the combos, but the first couple games you do it, you might run into a little bit of like complexity because there's a lot to keep up with at first, but. Like I said, you're just trying to get up on those magic tracks. You're trying to score off your dwellings, your cards. There's a lot to keep up. There's a lot of little math things, but it's not that bad.
It's not as complicated as it may seem. I mean, honestly, once you realize, okay, I'm supposed to keep track of this and this and this, it flows so peacefully.
Yes.
Except when you're warring. But I mean,
but the warring itself, I have to say this: the warring was not even that devastating.
No, it wasn't.
It really wasn't. I mean, because every time you go to the underworld, you get a sword, You know,
and then you may have a player,
a clan, you know.
Yeah, your clan may say you can pull one unit back or something like that.
Or you get, like, I had one clan, I forget who it was, was it Shadow Demons or
I think
something?
it was one of the,
I forget, but every time my dragon went into the underworld, I got a victory point. So it's like the Loki strategy from Blood Rage a little bit. And I like the fact that every clan is so distinctly different, you know. And so
right here, the Clerics of the Dawn.
Clerics of the Dawn, that's right. That's
you
right.
Bring one unit back from the underworld, which was phenomenal.
So
you even have cards that did that.
Yeah, and so I know I'm gushing on this. I'm trying to also go where I feel like there could have been some cons for some people a little bit. Again, the scoring was a little bit of con, but I love the scoring. The scoring is one of my favorite parts of the game. But
you seem like you're behind, but you don't know how the tableau cards and everything else that you have is going to...
The combos are amazing.
Especially because some of these cards are quest cards, and they're like in-game or during game. And sometimes you may have like a whole handful at the end of the game.
And I kind of wish there wasn't a hand limit sometimes. I'm going, the tension of putting cards back that you can't, you know, because you want to hold on to others.
Sometimes I forget about to check these, because especially when I know that, you know, most of my cards are like in-game points, and I'm holding on to them, and I get more cards, I forget what my hand limit is, and I just completely forget about those over there.
I love the fact that when I'm placing workers out and when I regroup, not only did I do an action out here and gain a resource, I pull those same workers back, including dragons, including wizards.
And you're gaining more resources.
And I go to my tableau, my cards, and I can gather more resources. I can make dwellings. I can summon more characters onto the board.
When you're coming back here, that's more planning for your next round of how you want to do things.
And it feels, I'll be honest with you, it feels a little bit like Raiders. I did that again. It feels a little bit like Raiders of the North Sea, where it kind of does, where you place a worker out and then you do an action and you take another worker out, but you're doing another action. The cadence of the game is amazing, but nothing in the game feels absolutely 100% unique, but I feel like it was unique in the sense that it melded so many things together that could have gone horribly wrong. Because I really think that if one or two of these things weren't just spot on where it needed to be, it could have been horribly wrong. And I felt like this is one of the smoothest running games I've played in the past year, honestly. In terms of this kind of complexity.
Getting into it and getting the rules down pretty quickly and everything. I think it's one of the smoothest games. And it grabs a hold of you and it won't let you go.
But yeah, I really feel like this could end up being a lot of people's game of the year. Yeah. I really do. And I don't want to say necessarily yet that it's mine, but it's in the running. I'll just say that much, because again, we may be doing another video that talks about all that. This year's been weird for everybody, so we'll see. But anyway, final thoughts, final ratings. I would say when it comes to everything taken in, whether there's some little cons here and there, a ton of pros for me, I am sitting easily at about a 9, about a 9 out of 10. Straight up, 9 out of 10. This game is amazing. I think that everybody should give it at least a shot. And I know I get some of the randomness with the dice rolling, but you can mitigate some of that with some of the things that you have.
You can get randomness with the card.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, I get why some people would have a problem with that. But if you understand what this is going in, you will more than likely have an amazing time. I really believe that. So, and love it at every player count, except we haven't tried it with 5.
Haven't tried it with 5.
I've tried it several times with 2. We did it with 3 and 4. And I've loved it at every...
What's your sweet spot right now? What do you think?
I would say 3 and 4. I like 3 a lot. I really like 3 a lot.
3 is my sweet spot on it.
I really like, but I love
pushing it a little bit.
I like 4. You're getting into a longer game, but I still didn't feel like it was too terribly long.
No, it wasn't too terribly long. It's just with the more monsters out on the board and the more players out on the board, more of the spots when it's smaller get taken up rather quickly.
Yeah.
So I think
it does modify.
Yeah, it does modify, but I think at the 3 count, to me that's my sweet spot on the game.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it flows a lot easier, and I just love it at the 3 count. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'll play at the 4 count. I'll try it at the 5 count.
You like it at 2.
Yeah.
I was blown away how much I liked it. And I don't like a lot of games like this at 2.
There's not a lot of 2-player games out there that I've really fallen in love with.
Right.
And this game, you could play it at 2 players and still have tons of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do with a lot of games.
Where are you sitting?
9 3/4.
Really?
I'm freaking in love with this game.
Wow.
I mean, the components.
I know where he's going to set this
when
on the
you
game. With
first told me about the little sound bases, I was like, that's a nice little gimmick, but how long is it really going to thrill you?
Yeah.
Thrills you a lot.
Okay, look, I'll have to say this though: if there were no sound bases, I would still like this game a lot.
I would still like this, but I do like it, that aspect where
so what you're saying is you like gimmicks.
When the gimmicks on this, because someone's coming into space near the monster that you want, and when that monster comes in there,
let's go! You know, it's like
feel the rage of it that they're gonna get destroyed. And when they do, you're like, thank you, monster.
Yeah.
So it's phenomenal. I mean, the whole gameplay of this is just, I can't find anything I don't like about this.
Right.
I really nitpicked on my cons list, and I'm just really not even mentioning them because they're so nitpicky.
Yeah.
And you covered a few of them.
Yeah.
If you don't add this to your collection, you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm not saying that, but
I will.
I'll let him
I love the game of it.
Yeah, I will say though that this is the type of game that makes me want to play more games. This is the type of game I got into the hobby for, and I love this game. So anyway, that's Dwellings of Eldervale. What about you? Have you gotten a chance to play it? Did you get the sound bases and all of that? Here, let me let you hear it. Isn't that amazing? Godzilla! It's what it reminds me of. But anyway,
the wash shit's on there.
Oh yeah, the wash on these. See, we can keep going and going and going. We gotta end this. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm Kaz.
I'm Brian.
And this is the Dice Odyssey. You have a blessed day.
Game away.
Game away.
This video is brought to you by Fallen Dominion Studios. Check out their website at fallendominionstudios.com.